Namaste. I just had a very nice conversation with Siddhananda, and I tried to record it as much as possible since she was talking on my phone and she doesn't have Skype. So we'll see if it came out or not, but it's a good one to share with people. And so what I wanted to do is, since we're in the midst of some of the sages and things really going forward and in the last bits of the journey of cutting the last threads and going from the state of mind and thought, no mind. I've spoken about this so many times, and there's a few other subjects I'll get into and touch on very, very briefly this time. But the foremost authority, and I think anyone will agree, the foremost authority, recognized authority on non-duality that was a genuine sage, was a genuine authority on it, was Sri Ramana Maharishi. And so I got my book out today, and I went through and marked a few things that addresses the state of no mind and the importance of it in realization, and a couple of other subjects just so that people can compare what is said here versus what Ramana says. And this is what I try to tell people, that if you want to know about an Advaita teacher, a Satguru, that is supposed to be speaking from non-duality, you'll find that their words will match up with Ramana's pointings. There will be no variation within it, because it's all within that same state of consciousness. Now, if there's a variation in it, then you understand that that teacher, that guru, is not in the state of full realization, that they're within another state, another dimension of being, another part of consciousness, maybe not perhaps fully completed. But anyway, if you want to, like I said, if you want to check out a guru, check out if their words are matching their lives, and if their pointings, if their direction is going to fit with what Ramana has said. Okay? So those are a couple of tests you can do to find out, and find out their students. Really, how far have their students gone? You know, are they just parroting stuff? Or is there some genuine transformation there? Now, I've spoken with some people from a few different paths that were supposed to have been quote-unquote completed, but what was found was, while their words were fine on the surface, their physical life was not following through. Their words and their actions were not matching up. So again, another thing to look at. So on we go with some of Ramana. Okay. All right. This is speaking about being a householder. Should I be a householder, grihasta, or should I be a sannyasi? Is it going to help? Is it going to lessen the mind spin? What is the best way to go about it? And so that's what he's speaking to with this. And what he says is, whether you continue in the household or renounce it and go to the forest, your mind haunts you. The ego is the source of thoughts. It creates the body and the world and makes you think you are a householder. If you renounce the world, it will only substitute the thought sannyasi for that of householder, and the environment of the forest for those of the household. But the mental obstacles are always there. They even increase in new surroundings. There is no help in the change of environment. The obstacle is the mind. So once again, the obstacle is the mind. It must be got over, whether at home or in the forest. If you can do it in the forest, why not in the home? Therefore, why change the environment? Your efforts can be made now, whatever environment you may be in. So this is one thing about this path. The path has to be done wherever you are. There's no need to leave to say, well, I can only do it when it's silent. I can't have any commotion. I can't have, then it's not genuine. Then it's not genuine. The mind stilling and that quietude is present no matter where you're at. No matter what is the commotion around, no matter what is your life's work, it's the same thing, okay? Now, the only difference between doing it when you're a householder versus when you're a sannyasi, when you're a sannyasi, you have less on your plate, less external obligations, less external hooks as far as sex and children and, you know, all of the other stuff that comes with that. And so that's the only benefit in taking sannyas versus over being a householder. Okay? Okay, I don't see what it was I was going to read here. Okay, so ongoing. A sannyasi asked, "It is said that the self is beyond the mind, and yet realization is with the mind. The mind cannot think it, it cannot be thought of by the mind, and the mind alone can realize it. How are these contradictions to be reconciled?" And so Maharishi goes on to say, Atman, or that self, primal is realized with dead mind. Now notice it does not say non-attached mind. It says dead mind. Now that's pretty clear, i.e., mind devoid of thoughts. Devoid of thoughts, not attached to thoughts, devoid of thoughts, and turned inward. Where? Where do I say it has to be? In the heart center. The mind is turned inward. It's not chasing the external projections, which in turn keep the mind engaged, keep it in creation, sustaining, and aversion, and attachment mode. Okay? Then the mind sees its own source and becomes that. It is not as the subject perceiving an object. Okay? There is no subject-object. Ego is never going to get it. Ego is not going to walk into the door of the Holy of Holies and emerge intact. Okay? That's not going to happen. And not be in full realization. It may glimpse it. It may go into that state in a nirvikalpa samadhi, okay, and in a deep, deep meditation. But then once one comes out of it and the mind engages again, it's lost. Okay, so then it becomes just an experience that one may be able to speak of, but it hasn't liberated, it hasn't brought that known that one is always liberated, okay, and there's still maybe suffering. So it has to go fully to the nirvikalpa samadhi that is effortless, that is ongoing, which contains no mind within it, which contains only that pure awareness of that is. So onwards we go. What are the 7 stages of knowledge? They are, number 1, the desire for enlightenment. First, you have to want it. You have to want it more than the next breath. You have to truly, truly, truly have the desire. Because how are you going to drop ego? How are you going to drop the world? How are you going to drop attachments when you really don't have the desire to get off the wheel of suffering and karma? You have to really want that. Okay, number 2 is hearing and reflection. Okay. So first you come, you really desire it. You come before the Guru, you listen and you hear and you reflect on it. You sit with what's coming up. You see what it is and you see what it's not. Okay? So that's the next step. Insights will come. Okay? Then tenuous mind. Okay? Mind starts to lose its hold at that point. You're in and out of this, feeling like the dream state, all of this other stuff is starting to come, and things are tenuous. In and out, like the waves. In the ocean, and then the wave. In the ocean, and then you're a wave. And then in the ocean, and then you're a wave. Okay, the tenuousness. Then comes the self-realization. Okay, maybe you have a glimpse. You have a glimpse of oneness, you have a glimpse of these other things, okay? Then one goes to non-attachment. That vairagya arises. Really, there's no attachment anymore to those pulls and those, grasping desires. It falls away into that vairagya. After that, one goes to the absolute non-perception of objects. Okay? It becomes, like I said, it's a dream state. The body, there is no more attachment to form. One is no longer feeling as if they are the body. One is no longer that mind. One is no longer any of those things. All of that perception, all of that dissipates, all of that becomes very ephemeral at best. And the last one is beyond words. Okay? Because words are duality. Beyond words, beyond thought, in that ever-present stillness which is prior to words, prior to thought, prior to that first projection. Those are the 7 layers and levels that one has to traverse through for full realization. Okay. On we go. So they have somebody that came and said, well, how to attain the self? And when I say self, I'm not talking about a higher self. I'm not talking about a higher personalized self. I'm not talking about persona, with all its quirks and things. Yes, that remains in the world. Others see that body going through the motions. But the self, once it's truly attained that self, it's impersonal. And this is not a devoid thing. It's not a cold and sterile thing, as what people would think. That when you say impersonal, it belongs to all equally, It's, it is that ground of being which is unchanging, without a second, okay? Okay, so he says, self is not to be attained because you are the self. It's not something external to you. It's not external to you, it's always been present. Therefore, how can you get what is always present? One has to get rid of the occlusions. One has to get rid of the blinders. Okay? He says, yes, there is an unchanging self and a changing one in me. There are 2 selves. Okay? So this is the perception of the seeker's coming. Okay, well there's two me. There's the lower me, and then there's the higher me. Okay, I want to find the higher me. Okay, there's an unchanging me. Okay, I can maybe understand that intellectually, but then there's a changing me. So, you know, how to get there. And so Ramana's saying is the changefulness is mere thought. Once again, the changefulness is mere thought. Thought is duality. It's words, it's duality, it's objects. It makes it into subject-object. All the thoughts make subject-object. And he goes on to say, all thoughts arise after the arising of the I thought. The first thought is I. This is why he says just stay with I am at first. Go back to the first one. Don't go any further than that, just I. And eventually that I thought is also going to dissipate. Okay? That personalizing of that I thought is going to start to dissipate. But let's continue to read and see what he says. See to whom the thoughts arise. Then you transcend them and they subside. What happens? You transcend the thoughts and then they subside. What does subside mean? It means they're going away, okay? They're lessening. They lose their power. They lose their hold. They lose their energy. They lose their momentum. And slowly by slowly, like a wheel that's been disengaged, if you're not engaging the wheel of thought anymore, it's going to go and eventually run out of steam, and then it goes into that stillness and arises no more. Okay? This is to say, tracing the source of the I thought, you realize the perfect I. I is the name of the self. Okay? And he's not talking about a personalized I. He's talking about the impersonal, which is at the heart of all being. It doesn't matter who, and there's only one. Okay. Now, we'll go on to here. People ask me about Kundalini. Does Kundalini have to be in place? Okay, let's see what Ramana has to say on this subject. Okay, they say that Kundalini must be aroused before realization, and its awakening makes the body feel hot. Is that so? And Ramana goes on to say the yogis call it Kundalini Shakti. It is the same as Vritti of the form of God, of the Bhaktas, and Vritti of the form of Brahman, of the Jnanis. It must be preliminary to realization. It must be preliminary to realization. The sensation produced may be said to be hot. And the guy goes on to say, Kundalini is said to be the shape of a serpent, but vrittis cannot be so. And Ramana goes on to say, the Kundalini of Jnana Marg is said to be the heart. And so where is your focus on this path? The heart center. Why? Are we getting a clue here as to why these practices are being given? Okay? Which is also described in various ways as a network of nadis, of the shape of a serpent, of a lotus bud. And the guy says, is this heart the same as the physiological heart? Ramana says no. Sri Ramana Gita defines it as the origin of the I thought. So once again, one goes back to the beginning where an I thought emerges, that first projection. One rests there until that projection then disbands. The illusion is laid bare. When the thoughts die out, the mind dies out, and what remains is that perfect, full realization. Okay. Onward we go. The Jnani's mind, or the realized being's mind, is known only to the Jnani. One must be Jnani oneself in order to understand another Jnani, or another realized being. However, the peace of mind which permeates the saint's atmosphere is the only means by which the seeker understands the greatness of the saint. His words or actions or appearance are no indication of his greatness, for they are ordinarily beyond the comprehension of common people. Now, a realized being is not going to look any different on the surface than anyone else. The difference is when you come into their presence, if there's that connection that's been developed, when you come in, your mind is going to start to still. It's a perceptible happening that's going to take place. And it does happen, okay? Things become more still, okay? Now, ongoing, here's another one that I've had people want to dispute about, and I've always said free will is only in the domain of ego. And let's see what Ramana has to say about that. Okay. Has man any free will, or is everything in his life predestined and preordained? Ramana says, free will holds the field in association with individuality. As long as individuality lasts, so long there is free will. All the sastras are based on this fact, and they advise directing the free will in the right channel. Okay? Find out to whom free will or destiny matters. Abide in it, then these two are transcended, and that is the only purpose of discussing these questions. To whom do these questions arise? Find out and be at peace. Okay? So, once again, you know, if you go back and you look at my videos, you'll find out this is what I've said over and over and over again. Free will only exists when one is in ego, and then you are making this choice or that choice, okay? But when all falls away, it doesn't mean one is a robot. Everything happens spontaneously. One is in that stillness, in that still presence, in that is. There is no mind directing this or that, making this choice and that choice and that choice as to a in desire and attachment or aversion. Okay, that drops. So the matter of free will is at an end. Okay. Oh, and then here comes the last one. What have I said time and time and time again about being a bodhisattva? So let's see what Ramana has to say on this. I've said that this is an ego game. How can one be a bodhisattva and give anything to anybody? The only time you have something to give is when you're in realization, when realization remains. Then there's something to give. Then you really have a map and can give to others. So let's look at what Ramana has to say on this subject. And I was very surprised to find these in here today. I hadn't read these before, so it was, you know, I'm glad that they're in there, and people that doubt it can look it up for themselves in the Ramana texts. Again, a good man says, it does not matter even if I do not get mukti, if I don't get liberation, okay? or let me be the last man to get it, so that I shall help all others to be muktas, to be realized beings before I am. It is all very good. Imagine a dreamer saying, may all these wake up before I do. The dreamer is no more absurd than the amiable philosopher aforesaid. In other words, that is such a drama that doesn't even make sense. You can't help somebody to become a realized being unless you're a realized being. Okay? You can't give somebody, you can't make somebody a millionaire when you don't have the tools to be a millionaire, you know? So again, let's look at things realistically. Let's go forward. Let's dispel some of these myths. Let's look deeper and understand the path. It's, you know, easy to get a glimpse of oneness. It's easy to be in and out of oneness. A sahaj oneness, where it's ongoing, is a little more difficult, but much easier than realization. And so many of the Neo-Advaitic satsang givers are in that state of oneness, where the mind, they say their thoughts are fine, just, you know, be attached to them, and you're in this bliss. Well, you're still in the seeds of karma. You're still on the wheel of karma at that point. So I want to make this very, very clear. They say that, you know, in many, many books I read, and I was just reading one that's good. It's called Eyes Wide Open by Mariana Kaplan. And it addresses the fact, and it's written for those that go as far as oneness, you know, that, you know, what to look for in a teacher, and that the path is difficult. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It's very good. There are some things within it that I might look at a bit differently when it comes to the last couple chapters. One is Tantra, and then the following chapter after that, which I forget which it is at the moment. But it goes basically as if nobody ever becomes realized, as if it's unattainable. And there's so many of them where people, and the reason that they're in this in and out, they're still attached to the lives. They're still attached to, and this external projections of mind, rather than allowing this to die and going into that death and going into that fear and really surrendering that and having the full attention and focus within rather than projecting it without. Okay? So you can't just sit there and go into a meditation and have the focus within, and then when you stand up, all of a sudden your focus is without in the world. Because that just is, again, re-engaging the mind, re-engaging. Okay? One has to finally come to that stillness. Okay? And that stillness and sitting in that quiet means no mind. It doesn't mean that just you're not speaking, that you're not just not speaking. It means that the mind is no longer engaging in chatter. The mind is no longer engaging in any of that drama, that it is still. That's true Mon. That's true silence. Okay? So let's again dispel some of these myths. Because going to India, I see some that are so highly regarded because they are not speaking. Doesn't mean anything. If the mind is chattering a mile a minute, what's the difference if the mouth is going or not? It means nothing. Okay, true Mon is when there is still mind. It's quiet. It's silent. It rises no more. There's just that pure awareness. Pure being, pure is. And so this is what I want to see come forward for as many sadhakas as possible here. Okay, if you can't let go, if you're not willing to let go of these attachments and develop the vairagya needed to be fully immersed within, then at least let's understand what oneness is, okay? Let's not think that that's the ultimate. Let's call it for what it is. It's holding two things with effort. Let's get to the effortless state of full realization and liberation in life. So, namaste. Thank you for spending this time with me in satsang. And just continue to go forward, you know. Renew your dedication. It's coming up, the time of the year to rededicate yourself in the New Year's. So this is a good New Year's resolution to make. Sit down and really, really think about what it is that you want. Do you want a better life in the world? Do you want to go forward to oneness? Or do you want to go the full way to realization and understand what the two variations take? Okay? One of them, you still have some attachments here and there, still subtle ego running the show, and the other one, all of this is being willing to be let go of. All of this is let go of. So thank you, namaste, and I look forward to seeing all of you when I see you. Okay.